Hey everyone, welcome! Whether you're one of our regular friends or joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. If you enjoy this, don't forget to like and subscribe. They recently discovered the tomb of a royal doctor who lived over 4,000 years ago. This man literally held the lives of pharaohs in his hands. He knew secrets that were meant only for the gods and kings. But when his tomb was opened in 2024, they didn't find a body, just vivid wall paintings untouched by time and mysterious symbols carved into stone. So, who was this man, and why was he buried with spells related to the scorpion goddess? His tomb was found deep beneath the sands of Saqqara. The man's name was Teti-Nebi-Fu, and he lived about 4,100 years ago, during one of the most mysterious turning points in ancient Egyptian history, right at the edge of greatness and collapse. It was the final chapter of Egypt's Old Kingdom. The sun still shone on the newly built pyramids, but shadows were already creeping in. Pharaoh Pepi II ruled for 90 years, longer than any ruler before him. But near the end of his reign, the kingdom began to fall apart. Central power weakened, local leaders gained influence, and the Nile's floods became unpredictable. And in this chaotic time, the mysterious doctor thrived. A Swiss-French archaeological team uncovered his tomb in the shadow of the ancient pyramids. But the strangest part? Inside the burial chamber there was no body, no golden treasures either. The tomb had been robbed long ago, but what remained was even more fascinating: words and images left behind on the walls. The colorful paintings are still shockingly vibrant after all these centuries underground. The walls show jars, containers, odd abstract patterns, and geometric designs. Alongside these are lines of hieroglyphs, sacred texts carved so carefully it's as if the artist poured their soul into each curve. These inscriptions revealed that Teti-Nebi-Fu wasn't just a doctor, he was a sorcerer of Seretet, Seretet being the terrifying scorpion goddess. Egyptians believed she could neutralize poison, heal bites, and protect the living from deadly forces. As her sorcerer, Teti was likely an expert in treating venomous stings and bites, and if he had an entire tomb to himself, that probably meant he was Egypt's top specialist in such matters, a man who healed with both medicine and magic. But that's not all. He also held the rare title of Director of Medicinal Plants, which has only ever been found once before in all of ancient Egypt. This suggests he was a master of herbs, roots, and oils, someone who truly understood their healing power. Now you might be wondering, plants? In a desert? Actually, the ancient Egyptians used herbal remedies that would still hold up in modern labs today. They made pills, ointments, and even inhalers. They'd pick active ingredients, add a flavor to make them more palatable, and include something to help deliver the medicine into the body. Sounds familiar, right? Since traditional plants were scarce, some of their ingredients were unusual by modern standards, like crocodile dung and acacia mixed with honey. They even had anti-wrinkle creams. And get this, our mysterious healer was also a chief dentist, a title almost never seen in ancient records. Proof of dentists in ancient Egypt is incredibly rare. But it turns out, Teti not only dealt with bites and herbs, but was also trusted with teeth and jaws. Dental issues were a big deal back then. While they built marvels like the pyramids, ancient Egyptians paid a heavy price in oral health. Sand constantly made its way into their mouths, especially through gritty bread and raw vegetables, eroding their enamel and leading to a painful condition called dental wear, often causing tooth loss. They had to get creative. For example, they invented the world's oldest known toothpaste, made from crushed rock, mint, and pepper. They also used eggshells, peas, and natron, which is a salty mineral to clean their teeth. Some even made mouthwash from celery bran and herbs. A few mummies have been found with primitive dental braces, gold wires tying teeth together. We're still not sure if those were used during life or just added for the afterlife. So, Teti-Nebi-Fu mastered all this, 3 rare titles, all for one man. In his time, he must have been seen as a genius in a world without modern science. More like a wizard who knew how a few leaves or a piece of bark could save a life. That's why archaeologists believe Teti wasn't just a doctor, he was probably the royal physician, possibly even treating Pharaoh Pepi II himself. Maybe that's why he lived so long. If that's true, Teti may have witnessed the final days of the Old Kingdom from inside the palace walls. Eventually he died. His body was looted or lost over time, but archaeologists are still studying the tomb, still uncovering the legacy of this incredible man. Ancient Egyptians practiced shockingly advanced medicine. Some of it still sounds familiar today. They had hospitals, specialized surgeries, even medical schools. Both men and women could be doctors. They performed surgery using real tools, scalpels, forceps, even surgical thread. Some doctors specialized in eyes, others in teeth, the stomach, or what they called hidden diseases. They knew how to clean wounds, bandage them, and even set broken bones with splints made of wood and wrapped linen. They could prevent infections too. They even built the first prosthetics, like a wooden toe with leather straps to help someone walk again. The oldest known prosthetic is about 3,000 years old. And here's the most shocking part. They even tried to remove tumors. One study looked at a 4,000-year-old skull from a man in his 30s. It had signs of tumors and surgical cuts made by a metal tool. Someone clearly tried to remove or study them. Maybe it was treatment, maybe an autopsy. Another skull belonged to a woman over 50. It showed healed fractures from earlier injuries, suggesting she actually recovered. Amazing. In ancient Egypt, being a healer meant being a priest, scientist, and sorcerer all at once. Medicine was seen as both sacred and practical. They believed illness could be both physical and spiritual. A doctor might say a prayer while applying a knife, and it worked. Egyptian doctors were so well respected that kings from Persia and other places came looking for their help. Even Homer, the Greek poet, once said the Egyptians were the best healers of all time. Of course, they didn't fully understand human anatomy. They thought the heart controlled thought and emotions and didn't know the brain's true function. But their methods of observing symptoms, diagnosing and treating illness, that's the foundation of modern medicine. They might have prayed over a wound, but they healed it too. The most famous doctor was Imhotep. He was a real genius, priest, architect, and physician. He became so respected that people worshipped him as a god of medicine. He lived 2,000 years before Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine. Honestly, some say we should ditch the Hippocratic oath and swear by Imhotep instead. These people weren't just laying the foundation for pyramids, they were laying the foundation for healthcare itself. But then there's the Bashiri mummy, and it's so mysterious that no one dares open it. Meet Howard Carter. You probably know him from discovering King Tut's tomb in 1922. But few people know that back in 1919, he might have found another mummy. It's gone by many names, the Bashiri mummy, the untouchable mummy, or even the Pachiri mummy. Some reports say Carter found it in the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, the same place he'd later find Tut's tomb. But not much is known about this mummy. What's really strange is that it's still fully intact, not because of superstitions, but because no one is sure what will happen if they try to unwrap it. The wrappings are so complex that researchers have never dared open it, fearing they might cause irreparable damage. And the golden rule in archaeology is, if you're not sure you can preserve it safely, don't touch it. We've lost too many ancient artifacts due to careless restoration. Just think of the Ötzi Homo statue incident. The Bashiri mummy's linen covering even has a pyramid-like design on the face, something completely unique. Without knowing the ancient technique, unwrapping such a mummy without damaging it is nearly impossible. In the past, mummies were unwrapped for all sorts of reasons, scientific and otherwise. But luckily today, we have advanced imaging technology that lets us see inside without disturbing anything. When researchers scanned the Bashiri mummy, they found it belonged to a man around 5.5 feet tall, who lived during the Ptolemaic era, about 2,300 years ago. According to Egypt's museum, X-rays also revealed inscriptions, so the man's name might be Ion, but it's hard to tell if he said Bachiri or Nin, which only adds to the mystery. According to the museum, the mummy's decorated covering is full of detailed scenes. You can see the mummy lying on a bed, surrounded by the goddesses Isis and Nephthys, along with the 4 sons of Horus, and even 2 images of Anubis near the feet of the coffin. But Bachiri isn't the only mummy that's been left untouched. There's also the mummy of Isimkeb, and Gaston Maspero, a famous French archaeologist, chose not to open her up, wanting to let her rest peacefully because her condition was astonishingly well preserved. Even though her tomb had been looted a long time ago, X-rays revealed a lot of amulets wrapped around her neck, right arm, and forehead. Scans also showed she had dental problems and arthritis in her knees, suggesting she died as an older woman, though her exact age is unclear. Still, records from her son's reign show she was deeply respected in the kingdom. Isimkeb was both the sister and wife of Pinjem II. Yes, you heard right, they were siblings. But that kind of marriage was common back then to keep bloodlines pure. Just like the Habsburgs in Europe centuries later, chasing purity often led to inbreeding. We shouldn't judge ancient Egyptian ethics by today's standards, but what we can say for sure is that both Bachiri and Isimkeb were incredibly lucky to be preserved. King Tut wasn't so lucky. Despite the fame of his tomb, the coffins weren't even opened until 1925. During excavation, the outer coffin, which was pinned together with silver nails, revealed another mummy-shaped coffin, decorated with colored glass and lotus flowers. But there were, some serious concerns. The mummy had suffered water damage. The middle coffin was super heavy and had no handles, so the team had to be extremely careful lifting it. Inside the innermost coffin, made entirely of solid gold, wrapped in a red cloth, was the royal mummy. This all took place on October 28, 1925. Tutankhamun's mummy measured about 6.07 feet, while the coffin was 6.17 feet, which already told them this was going to be tricky. Try extracting a fragile ancient body from a tight golden box. Not easy. Strangely, the mummy looked pitch black. Lead archaeologist Howard Carter estimated that 2 buckets of oil had been poured over the body, avoiding the mask and feet, which were meant to be preserved. The body was slightly tilted, and there was uneven oil staining on either side, suggesting the coffin may have tilted while being lowered into the stone sarcophagus. Over time, the oils and moisture caused a chemical reaction that Carter described as slow-motion combustion, basically turning the linen wrappings to charcoal. The heat and humidity also damaged the mummy's artifacts. Crooked whips fell apart, resin scarabs cracked, and the threads holding the hands and mummy bands began to disintegrate. The oils had even hardened, gluing the mummy and mask to the bottom of the coffin. They put the body in direct sunlight to try and loosen it, and temperatures reached 149 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius. Still, the mummy was stuck, so they had to do the initial examination right there. They started from the bottom up, examining the legs and feet first. As they peeled away the wrappings, they uncovered the first of many treasures, carefully photographing and documenting everything. But the inner wrappings had mostly turned to dust, making it hard to tell how the mummy was originally wrapped. The general method matched other noble mummies: folded linen padding around the torso and thighs, fine linen on the inside and outside, and coarser fabric in the middle. The bandaging around the shoulders, chest, and thighs was especially elaborate. Each limb, finger, and toe was wrapped separately, with gold caps over them. Even gold-leaf sandals were placed on his feet. They tried to remove the outer wrappings to detach the mummy from the coffin, but the resins fused the mummy to the gold. In the end, the researchers had to cut the torso in half at the hips and remove the arms to unwrap everything. They used hot paraffin wax to stabilize each part, then reattach the hands and feet with resin. Finally, they even used hot knives to separate the head from the mask to study his teeth. A cut was made around the jaw and neck, later sealed with resin. So yes, they did everything they could to preserve him. But still, the mummy suffered irreversible damage. What do you think? Should they have left him in the coffin? Or did they do the right thing? Let us know in the comments. Now back to modern discoveries. Egyptian archaeologists recently made a groundbreaking discovery near Cairo. Drumroll, please. The oldest and most complete mummy ever found in the country. This 4,300-year-old mummy was uncovered near the Step Pyramid of Djoser, part of Egypt's Old Kingdom. The mummy was covered in gold. The team also found many other tombs. One belonged to an ancient official, another to a secret priest capable of conducting private rituals. There was also a tomb of a scribe containing the largest statues ever found in the region. This massive burial site includes over a dozen pyramids and burial chambers. One of the most famous mummies in the world, that would be Hatshepsut, Egypt's powerful female ruler. She led for about 20 years, built stunning architecture, and opened new trade routes. But when Carter found her tomb, her coffin was empty. However, he found 2 other coffins in a nearby tomb, one for her nurse and one for an unknown woman. In 2006, researchers wondered if that mystery woman was Hatshepsut. A tooth in a wooden box labeled with her name was found, and it perfectly matched a gap in the mummy's mouth. Another legendary ruler, Ramses II, one of the most powerful pharaohs ever. He ruled for 60 years, lived to over 90, and had over 100 children. When he died, his body was buried in the Valley of the Kings, but grave robbers forced officials to hide his mummy in a secret location. In the 1800s, Ramses' mummy was found, but in poor condition. So they flew it to Paris for conservation. The catch? You can't fly a body internationally. So Egypt gave Ramses a passport. Yes, it listed his occupation as king, complete with a photo. Most mummies don't exactly have soft, moist skin, But, Lady Di sure did. Discovered back in 1971, this elite woman from ancient China was buried in a tomb with just the right humidity and low oxygen, preserving her so well that her skin was soft, her hair still shiny, and her joints, well, still flexible. The museum actually displays her alongside her luxury items like fancy clothes and musical instruments. Tests show she died of a heart attack at age 50, over 2,000 years ago. Yet somehow she's still rewriting history. And then there's Ötzi the Iceman, discovered in the Alps in 1991. At first, people thought he was just a lost mountaineer, but nope. He turned out to be a 5,000-year-old man from the Copper Age. He was found at over 10,000 feet above sea level. From his body, we've learned a ton about ancient European life. He ate meat, had arthritis and intestinal issues, and maybe even practiced acupuncture. He was an expert tool user. His weapons had actually been sharpened just days before his death. And of course, King Tut is the reason we even care about mummies today. Buried at age 19, over 3,000 years ago, his mummy became a global sensation after Carter discovered it almost perfectly intact. His tomb revealed not just history, but some real scientific clues. DNA tests showed he had bone disorders and possibly had difficulty walking. And let's not forget about Ginger. That's the nickname for the world's oldest naturally preserved mummy. Found in Egypt, he still has golden hair and perfect nails after 5,000 years. Before embalming was even invented, people would bury bodies in hot, dry sand, which naturally preserved them. Ginger may have been buried with some pots, suggesting the people who buried him already knew a thing or two about preservation. And today, you can actually meet Ginger yourself. He's relaxing in the British Museum. One last surprise, a Dutch art collector bought a Buddha statue from Asia and found a mummy inside it. The body was too fragile to remove, so it's still there. Turns out it's over 1,000 years old and it had scrolls filled with writing inside. Experts believe the monk mummified himself using special diets and herbal teas. Few could handle the process. Those who did were greatly respected. And finally, no ancient queen has puzzled researchers quite like Nefertiti. Her name means the beautiful woman has come. She was a queen, not a pharaoh, but she left a lasting impact. Elegant statues show her famous neck and cheekbones. She was Tutankhamun's stepmother, and so far her mummy hasn't been positively identified. But, that could soon change. A local Egyptologist may have found 2 female mummies in the Valley of the Kings, possibly Nefertiti and her daughter. If so, Connecticut scans and DNA testing could finally solve one of Egypt's greatest mysteries. So, next time you hear the word mummy, don't just think of horror movies. Mummies have taught us everything about medicine, royalty, rituals, and even ancient science. They believed in an afterlife, but only if the body was preserved and buried with all its essentials. Think of it like giving the dead their own fully furnished apartment, and that's why they mummified their dead. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and explore the forgotten past with us. Go ahead and comment, and support our journey into ancient truth. See you